The Mongol Empire conquered lands from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Europe. They amassed wealth beyond counting from every kingdom they shattered. Yet one treasure, the greatest of them all, slipped through their fingers and vanished. This is the mystery of the lost hoard of Genghis Khan, a fortune so immense it could rewrite our understanding of history. By the end of this journey, you will uncover why the most powerful military force the world had ever seen could not recover its own greatest prize. We will piece together ancient legends, follow the clues left in medieval texts, and examine the high-tech searches happening right now. How does an entire empire lose its founding father's tomb and the riches within it? What does it say about power that even the conquerors of continents could be defeated by a secret? If you could ask one question of the past, what would you risk to find the answer? The sheer scale of what the Mongols accumulated is almost impossible to comprehend. Persian historians, their words heavy with awe and terror, wrote of cities that burned for weeks, the smoke from melting precious metals darkening the sky. Chinese chroniclers recorded caravans that stretched for miles, each cart groaning under the weight of gold ingots, silk tapestries, and gemstones pried from the thrones of fallen emperors. This was not merely loot. It was the condensed wealth of entire civilizations, the intricate silverwork of the Khwarezmian Empire, the golden dragons of the Jin dynasty, the Buddhist sutras and relics of the Western Xia. For decades, this river of treasure flowed back to the Mongol heartland, to the court of the great Khan himself, and according to the most persistent legend, the greatest share of it was meant for one final, secret journey. This brings us to the most critical piece of the puzzle, the Mongol tradition of the hidden burial. When Genghis Khan died in 1227, his successors were faced with a profound dilemma. How do you protect the final resting place of a man who made a lifetime of enemies? Their solution was both brutally effective and chillingly final. The chronicle known as the Secret History of the Mongols, and accounts from travelers like Marco Polo, tell a similar grim story. The funeral procession, carrying the Khan's body back to his homeland, was an instrument of absolute secrecy. Every soldier who accompanied the cortege, every servant who prepared the tomb, even the unfortunate souls they passed along the remote route, were allegedly put to death. The goal was to leave no living witness, no one who could point a finger or be tortured into revealing the location. But the final act of concealment was even more dramatic. Legend states that after the Khan was laid to rest in a deep, unmarked pit, his loyal warriors diverted the course of a river directly over the burial site. They let the water flow over the turned earth, washing away all traces of digging, then allowed the river to return to its original bed. The result was a seamless, natural landscape. The greatest conqueror in history was buried beneath a flowing river, his tomb and its contents hidden by water and silence. So what, exactly, was sealed away with him? We must think beyond chests of gold and sacks of pearls, though those were certainly there. The true treasure is what it represents, a lost museum of the 13th century world. Imagine the crown of a Persian Shah, the imperial seal of a Chinese emperor, perhaps even artifacts from religions and cultures the Mongols erased. This hoard is not just a fortune, it is a frozen moment in time, a collection of histories that were almost lost forever. And for 800 years, it has dared the world to find it. This creates the central paradox of our story. The Mongols built a perfect lock, then threw away the key. Their security protocol was so absolute, so devastatingly thorough, that within a generation, even the ruling family likely had no concrete idea where the founder's tomb lay. Think about that for a moment. The empire commanded by Genghis Khan's grandson, Kublai Khan, stretched from Korea to Hungary. He could mobilize armies of 100,000 men, yet he could not dispatch a team to find his own grandfather's grave. The secrecy mechanism had worked flawlessly. but it worked against them as well. In the frantic political scramble after the Great Khan's death, the priority for his sons and generals was not preservation of a secret location, but the brutal contest for power. The empire had to keep moving, conquering, and administering its vast new territories. The tomb, by design, became a secondary concern, a sacred mystery to be honored from afar, rather than a site to be visited and maintained. This leads us to a powerful and often overlooked possibility. Later Khans, even if they possessed some vague oral tradition about the region, may have chosen not to look. In Mongol tradition, disturbing a burial site was a profound spiritual offense. The resting place of a leader as powerful as Genghis Khan would be saturated with his spirit, his sulda. To intrude upon that, to risk his wrath for mere gold, might have been seen as unthinkably dangerous. The treasure was safe not just under dirt and water, but under a layer of genuine fear and reverence. So the empire marched forward, its eyes fixed on new horizons, while its greatest physical symbol of legacy faded into the land itself. The conquerors of the world were ultimately defeated by their own most successful secret. That silence, however, would not last forever. The very mystery that protected the tomb began to act as a magnet, drawing treasure hunters, scholars, and adventurers out of the wilderness for centuries. The first clues were whispers in old texts. Marco Polo, writing decades after the fact, recorded only that Genghis Khan was buried in a great mountain called Altai. The more tantalizing, but frustratingly cryptic, source is The Secret History of the Mongols, an epic chronicle written for the royal family. It describes the funeral rites and the landscape in poetic, symbolic terms, mentioning a Burkhin Khaldan mountain, a place of profound spiritual significance. Yet it provides no map, no coordinates, only a riddle wrapped in cultural memory. For hundreds of years, these fragments were all anyone had, leading expeditions on wild goose chases across a territory larger than many European countries. The modern hunt began in earnest in the 20th century. As Mongolia opened to the outside world, archaeologists and historians, armed with these ancient texts, started to narrow the search to a specific region, the Ik-Korig, or Forbidden Zone, in the Kentiai Mountains. This was a place traditionally off-limits, guarded by local tribes who honored the old taboos. The most dramatic chapter in the modern search began in the late 1990s, with a high-profile and ultimately doomed expedition. A joint venture between a U.S.-based exploration company and the Mongolian government, named after Genghis Khan himself, launched with great fanfare. They brought in historians, archaeologists, and advanced technology, convinced they were on the brink of a historic find. In 2002, they announced they had discovered a promising walled burial complex at a site called the Amskivers Wall. But then, suddenly, the Mongolian government called a halt. The reasons were a tangle of politics, rising national sentiment about disturbing a sacred site, and controversy over foreign involvement. The site was sealed, and the dream of a quick discovery evaporated. This failure, however, paved the way for a more careful, scientific, and respectful approach. Today, the search is a fusion of ancient intuition and 21st century eyes. International teams, often led by dedicated figures like the late historian John Woods, work in close partnership with Mongolian scholars and the descendants of the tribes who have long been the region's guardians. They no longer dig recklessly. Instead, they scan. Satellite imagery analyzes the terrain for subtle, human-made patterns invisible from the ground. Drones equipped with special cameras fly over the dense forests and rocky slopes of the Ik-Korig, creating detailed three-dimensional maps. Most importantly, ground-penetrating radar is used to peek beneath the earth without moving a single stone. This technology sends pulses into the ground, painting a picture of voids, walls, or metal objects hidden below. It is the perfect tool for a search governed by reverence, allowing scientists to look for the tomb's signature without violating it. The work is slow, meticulous, and overwhelming in scale. The Forbidden Zone is vast, and nature has done its job well over 8 centuries. A river could have shifted its course multiple times since the burial, burying the site under layers of silt and gravel. A promising radar anomaly might turn out to be nothing more than a natural rock formation. Yet the hunt continues, driven by a question that is no longer just about gold. What could we learn about the Mongol Empire, about the interconnected world of the 13th century, from a time capsule placed in the ground by the empire's own founders? Every scan, every flight, brings us closer to an answer that has eluded everyone, from the greatest Khans to the most patient scientists, for nearly a millennium. The question now shifts from why it was lost to where it might be. Among the swirling theories, 3 stand out as the most compelling paths through the fog of history. The first and most respected points directly to a single sacred peak, Burkhan Khaldun in the Khentai province. For centuries, Mongolian tradition has revered this mountain as the spiritual heart of the nation, the place where a young Genghis Khan hid from his enemies and later gave thanks for his survival. Ancient texts, including the secret history of the Mongols, name it specifically in connection with the Khan. Modern scholars see this not just as folklore, but as a powerful cultural clue, a deliberate anchoring of his memory to a specific, protected place. The entire surrounding area, the Ik-Korig, was historically guarded by a dedicated warrior clan, the Uriankai, who barred entry to all outsiders. This enforced sacredness makes it a prime candidate. Yet the challenge is immense. The region is a sprawling wilderness of dense forest, steep slopes, and remote valleys. Even with drones and satellites, searching every square mile is a monumental task, compounded by the enduring local reverence that restricts invasive digging. A second theory takes the river legend literally and searches for a landscape that was permanently changed. Proponents of this idea argue that the story of diverting a watercourse is not mere myth, but a practical description of 8th century engineering. They scour geological surveys and historical flood maps of the Khentai region, looking for evidence of ancient riverbeds that seem oddly placed, or for valleys that show signs of a sudden, catastrophic hydrological shift centuries ago. The logic is elegant. If the tomb was buried and then a river was directed over it, the original burial site might now lie under a dry riverbed or a field of sediment that looks entirely natural. This turns the search into a puzzle of historical hydrology. The obstacle here is time, 800 years of erosion, seasonal flooding, and seismic activity can completely reshape a terrain, potentially burying the clues under meters of earth or washing them away entirely. The third, and perhaps most disruptive, theory suggests we are looking for the wrong thing. What if there is no single kingly tomb filled to the brim with treasure? Some historians posit that the funeral procession itself was the dispersal mechanism. As the cortege traveled in absolute secrecy over hundreds of miles, they may have created multiple burial sites, decoy graves, or hidden caches along the route to confuse any potential followers. The real treasure, in this scenario, could be scattered across the Mongolian steppe in smaller, even more ingeniously hidden deposits. This would explain why no concentrated, monumental site has ever been found. It simply may not exist in the form we imagine. The evidence for this is circumstantial but logical. It is a security protocol taken to its extreme. The practical challenge this presents, however, is almost insurmountable. It expands the search area from a defined sacred zone to a potential corridor hundreds of miles long, turning the quest from finding a needle in a haystack to finding several specific pieces of straw scattered across a vast field. Each theory offers a different lens: a sacred mountain, an engineered river, a scattered legacy. They are not mutually exclusive, and the truth may weave elements from all three. What binds them together is the shared understanding of the immense barriers, not just of rock and river, but of respect and scale, the very methods that protect the site, its spiritual significance, and its geographical vastness, are what continue to guard the secret. This leads us to a deeper, more human dimension of the mystery, the profound cultural and ethical dilemma that anyone who seeks this treasure must ultimately face. For 8 centuries, this treasure has existed in 2 worlds at once. It is a physical hoard of unimaginable wealth, and it is a powerful symbol, the ultimate expression of the Mongol Empire at its zenith. It represents their absolute power to take anything from anyone, and yet, in its disappearance, it also represents their most profound vulnerability. The greatest irony is not that the treasure was stolen, but that it was lost by the very people who created it. Their unmatched efficiency in conquest was mirrored by their terrifying efficiency in secrecy. They built a vault so perfect, a puzzle so complex, that the key was destroyed in the making. In seeking to protect their founder's legacy from desecration, they inadvertently protected it from everyone, including themselves. This is the core of the mystery's enduring power. It is a monument to human ambition that was swallowed by its own success. So we are left with a final, haunting question, one that moves beyond archaeology and into the realm of ethics. Is it better for this treasure to stay lost, to honor the ancient wish for secrecy, to let the great Khan's spirit rest undisturbed beneath the mountain or the river, as his descendants perhaps intended? Or is the call of knowledge too great? Should we seek to find it, to gently, respectfully unlock that frozen moment in the 13th century, to recover histories erased by time, and bring the full story of a connected medieval world into the light? There is no easy answer, and perhaps that tension is what keeps the search alive. What do you think? If you had the chance to decide, would you lift the river's veil or let the secret lie? Share your own theories in the comments below. The mystery belongs to all of us now. And if you want to journey into more historical enigmas, be sure to subscribe. Who knows what other incredible secrets from empires long gone are still waiting silently beneath the windswept steppes of our world?